Morning, y'all. It's Saturday, and we've got to get Margaret out. I just woke up, and it's like almost 8 o'clock. I slept in longer than I usually like to get her out and get her out in the grass and stuff. So let's get her milk warmed up and get her put outside. Do you see that? We moved. That video will probably be up before this one. Hush. But there's a chicken out. We moved all the chickens over there last night and caught them all. We have another culprit out. Ignore my dirty floor. This is the door we come in through the back door, so it's always going to have dirt from Josh's boots. Morning, Margaret. You hungry? As you can tell, she's starved. She's getting big, y'all. Aren't you? And just growing. Whoa, hey. Well, that means she's ready to go. She was a little wild this morning. I turned that camera off. She was screaming like crazy. I changed my mind. I'm not going to warm this up just because it's not cold outside. So it's not going to make her cold or anything. It'll be a nice little treat. That may or not be a chicken feather from last night. We had to trim some feathers last night, but this is where she'll stay. Probably should have scooted her farther under the tree, but I'll move her here in just a second. Apparently she prefers it warm, but she'll get in there and eat it. It'll warm up once it sits out here, but now she's out for the day. Let's check on everybody this morning. Josh was going to get up early this morning, but I don't think we slept very well last night. I fell asleep on the couch and got up at like 2 o'clock this morning, went to bed, and he was still up. So that's my bottle baby. If I've never actually pointed her out to y'all, she's like 3 years old now. There's my pigs. Apparently she's coming back into heat because that one's not going to help you, girl. Sorry. To go find the grandpa looking one. And this mama, try not to get too close to her so she don't get up. Hope she's getting up anyway. She's nice and bagged up and probably about to drop babies anytime. She's huge. She's a good mama though. We don't have to worry about her necessarily. 'Cause last time she had some, she was out in the pasture way out there somewhere, and I looked out and she had 2 little black things running around with her, and she dropped 2 black billies and took care of them, and we never had to mess with them. Everybody else is out here, and our other chickens are over there, and a big spider between these trees. Alrighty then. Good morning to you too. So everybody looks like they're good, so I'm going to go inside and let Josh feed him whenever he gets up. Alright, I want to show y'all a trick that I learned with tea. I learned it from This Farm Wife, also here on YouTube. I found her a few weeks ago and have been watching like almost all her videos, and one of them was a sweet tea hack, I guess. If you go through a lot of sweet tea like we do, or even just tea, doesn't necessarily have to be sweet tea, you'll want to do this. So what I've done is I have 4 cups of water in this pot. I'm going to make 2 batches here, and I haven't even opened my tea, but what you're going to basically pre-make like a tea starter, which is what she called it, and it makes it so much quicker to mix up your tea later on. So let me show you what I do with it. I actually need to move my tea into this little jar here. I like keeping it in here because it fits in my shelf better than this big box. So let's see if I can fit most of these in here with one hand. That's the key, is with one hand. I think I can usually get but like a handful in there, which is then kind of annoying. Actually, I'll need 4 out, so I'm not going to try to fit those. Sorry, y'all couldn't even see what I was doing. I was pulling off 4 of them that I'm going to be putting in this pot, so I think I can get them all in there maybe. Perfect. So these will go, I'm just going to pull a little string off. I'm just going to put the whole thing in there. And this is 4 cups of water just in, you know, a little stew pot or whatever your water will fit in. And this saves you from making, I'm going to make 2 batches of tea at one time and put them in the fridge. So I'll show you how I do that. Let's get these, bring up the water to a boil. I'm going to kick it off and let it steep for a little while. I'm going to clean up the kitchen while it does that, so it may be a little while, but we'll let that get boiled up. Alright, while that tea is brewing, coming up to a boil, we're going to get these jars ready. What you're essentially going to do is put the amount of sugar that you would use. This is clean, it had a sticker on it. You're going to put however much sugar you want. This is a quart jar, it's not the little ones, it's a bigger one. Put your amount of sugar in, and then you're going to put roughly 2 cups of the brewed tea, and you're going to split it between these two, shake them up, stir in the sugar, add water to the top, and then put it in your fridge. And then whenever you're ready for tea, your husband, who probably most likely doesn't like to make tea and will drink down to the little bit just so he doesn't have to make it, and then I'll see it and make it. Anyway, I don't know if that's everybody. That's our house. He can just dump this jar into the pitcher, add water up to the top of the pitcher, stir it up, and he's got tea. He doesn't have to stand over the stove and brew it. He can just throw it in there. So I loved this idea. I've done it. This will be like my 3rd time to do it. I wanted to test it before I told y'all about it, just to see if I liked it, and to me it tastes just fine. So let's get our sugar in here. This is my canning funnel. Just makes it easier when I'm dumping the sugar in. And there we go. There's my sugar in there. And yes, Josh likes a lot of sugar in his. And is it good for him? Probably no. Is it good for me? No. But I add water to about half of my cup of tea whenever I heat it up, which he hates, but it cuts down on my tea. So anyway, so there's a lot of sugar in there. We'll mix that up as soon as the tea gets ready, and then put it in the fridge. It's really simple, saves a lot of time. All you need is a few jars and a fridge. Okay, now I've got my tea here. This is a 4 cup little pitcher thing. It's got about 3 3/4 cup. No, actually it's about 3 cups. I'm looking at the wrong side. So we're going to split about 1.5 cups between these two to make our tea. Some of the water apparently boiled out or burned, you know, whatever, boiled away. So I'm going to try to split this with these. There's about 1.5. And this just helps because you don't have to be as accurate when you're pouring. You don't have to have one of those. I just use it because I have one. So there's that. And since I use so much sugar, I'm going to use a spoon. Meredith, this farm wife, she just shook hers. She doesn't use near as much sugar as we do. And add some water. Just to about the top. There, you can see. I added probably 1.5 cups of water. Okay. Gonna stir it one more time, just to make sure. Put our lids on. And I just reuse the same, obviously, jars and lids. Just wash them out real good. And there is your tea starter. All you have to do with these now is just put them in the fridge. And then whenever your tea gets lower, you need to make some more. All you have to do is take the pitcher out, wash it out, add one of these, fill the water up the rest of the way, stir it, and you have tea. So this saves us 2 times of cooking on the stove. Or actually just 1 extra time. I've just done 2 at a time now because I don't have a whole lot of extra jars. but at one point I'll probably get, 3 or 4 jars in there. But it just saves you a little time and saves your husband from having to figure out how to use the stove, So, anyways, these will go in the fridge now. All right, y'all, I've got to get lunch/supper ready. There's my sugar. I don't have a whole lot of counter space, so just making it work. I have a half pork loin here that I picked up at Aldi yesterday. So, we're going to get this in the smoker, but first I've got to get this kind of marinating. I'm going to do it the same way I did my chicken the other night that I showed earlier in the video. And I think I'm going to throw some foil down, that way I can wrap it up and we'll get it seasoned up. Plus, this is like those little thin bottomed roasters that fits perfectly into my smoker. So this one I use, and I'm pretty sure it would probably stick, so that's why I'm going to put the foil down also. And since I have the tripod, I can use one of my hands, or both my hands. So I'm going to put a glove on, because I don't like mustard, and get this cut open. Okay, kind of pat it dry. I don't know if you could see, I was rinsing it off. Just get some of the water off. Go ahead and leave that fat on there because that'll give us some juice. And I know I've always said we don't typically buy meat from the store, and we really don't, but I wanted some kind of roast for supper, so that's what we went with. And this was already thawed, and I didn't think ahead enough to set down chicken, so this is what we're gonna do. So you're gonna do it like the chicken. Get your cheap yellow mustard, just squirt a little on there. Doesn't really take a lot. This is just to mainly, I think it kind of tenderizes it and makes the seasoning stick to it. And I'll probably use the rest of my dry rub. Don't have a whole lot in here, but on the chicken it was a little warm. I didn't realize I put that much red pepper in there, or my luck, all the red pepper fell to the bottom, and chicken was a little bit spicy, so I think this will be plenty for it. If I can get this glove on. Anyway, it's not on all the way, but it'll work. That way I don't smell like mustard, because I don't like to smell like it. So just put it on like that. Take my dry hand over here and put a little seasoning on. I'm just going to kind of literally rub it on there. Turn it over. Do the same thing with the mustard. And it's best to, you don't necessarily have to let it set on there, but it tastes better. The seasoning gets down in there and soaks in if you can do it, at least a couple hours ahead of time. That, and got it on the ends. So now it looks like that. Take this mustard glove off. Just gonna pull that in just a little. Put my lid on and stick this in the fridge for, it's like 8:30. I'll probably try to put it in the smoker about 10 o'clock, maybe 9 o'clock. We'll see when I remember, but I'll let y'all know. While I got the smoker heating up, I'm gonna make some rolls. I made some rolls the other night, and they were like the best rolls that I've made, and I'm not a good bread person. So let me see if I can stick it. Perfect, now I don't have to hold it. Okay, anyway, I'm gonna make some rolls. These are super easy. I made some chicken the other night and wanted some rolls. We only had like an hour and a half to 2 hours, and usually any of the rolls that I've seen, my recipes and stuff, it's like 3 or 4 hours. I'm like, I ain't got the time for that. And so I just googled 1 hour rolls, and I found this recipe. I'm gonna change it up just a little bit today because they did need to be a little bit sweeter. Sorry, my nose itches. But anyway, so I'm gonna show you how I do them. They were so easy, and they weren't like too doughy. Now they were a little huge. When I sectioned them off, I thought they were small enough, but they like grew and they were like, you know, huge rolls, but they were still good. So anyways, I'm gonna go ahead and show you how I do that. It's super quick and easy. You can have them done in a little under an hour if you are in like a time crunch. So let's get these going. Alright, first thing you're gonna need, I'm looking at my recipe here, a cup of water, 2 tablespoons of melted butter, half a cup of milk, and this is 2 tablespoons of honey, which I did that the other day, but it wasn't very sweet. Some people, you know, their taste of sweetness is completely different, so I'm gonna substitute it for sugar. And I looked up some other recipes, and a lot of the sweet rolls called for a 1/3 cup of sugar. Now, if you don't like sweet rolls, you may use the honey, but you do need a little bit of sugar to activate the yeast. You do have to have some kind of sugar because that yeast feeds off of that, and so you'll at least want to put maybe a couple tablespoons of sugar. You won't necessarily taste it because we didn't even hardly taste the honey. So let's get this in there. Microwave this in my big thing. I have a cup of water in here. We're gonna do 2 tablespoons of, it says melted butter. Last time I just put 2 tablespoons of butter in there, and by the time I heated it up, it was melted. So this is unsalted butter. Oh, and looky there, I've got 2 tablespoons right here. I am gonna cut it up, slice it up so it melts a little easier. Way I'm just cutting them into like smaller pieces because we're gonna microwave this, because you want it to be between 95 to like 115, I think. I think 110 is like the prime spot you want to be for it. Okay, so now we need a half a cup of milk. Super cute Pioneer woman measuring cups. Has the little line right here. So we, I don't know if you can see right up there. I get powdered milk because I do a lot of baking. We're not necessarily drinking a lot of milk in the summer. Josh typically does, but he's been working nights, and so he hasn't really been out during the day. So normally in the summer he drinks a lot of milk, and he's up right now, I think. So anyway, gonna do half a cup of milk. But anyway, I do powdered milk because I bake with it, so you can't really tell the difference in it anyway. Put this in there. 1/3 cup of sugar. His dog. Okay, now we're gonna microwave this for a minute, and then until it's warm. Test the temperature. I have a little digital thermometer. Test it, and then from there do 15-second intervals and check it each time until you get to about 110, and it kind of stays. And I mix our milk in one of these. And this, I made 2 cups of milk, so we've got about 1.5 cups left of milk. I'll use this later either, and I've put this like over cereal and stuff, and once it's refrigerate and cold, excuse me, got hiccups, then it tastes just like regular milk. That way it doesn't go bad on us, because all the time I was pouring out like, you know, 1/2 gallon of milk or some milk out to the dogs, which, you know, it's not necessarily getting wasteful, but I don't really want to buy milk for my dogs. So that's why I went to powdered, because I think I bought it back in the winter when he wasn't really when Josh wasn't really drinking milk as often. So that's why I went to powder, because I'm like, I can mix it with some water, use what little bit I need, and if I don't use it up, it's only like 1/2 cup of milk. It's not, you know, 1/2 gallon. So let's test this. It just beeped. So we're gonna stir this up, and I will leave the recipe down below in the description box too. That way y'all can find it easy. These are super easy, because I love bread. Obviously, you can tell I like carbs, but I'm not the best at making bread. So where's my, oh, it's over here. Right now it shows, I don't know if you can even see it, 79 degrees or 81 degrees. Let's put it down in here. At like 99. So I want it up to about, I'd like it at 110, because that's like the perfect. So we'll do 15 more seconds. You don't want it too hot. If it is, you know, hotter than 115, then let it cool down before you put your yeast in, because it'll kill your yeast. But you want it warm enough so that way it activates it. So it's kind of a fine line there, but this should be good. Okay, we're at 110. I don't know if you can see it. Well, now it went to 103 because I took it out, but it was at 110. So now we're gonna put our yeast in. The fast rising yeast that I got at Aldi. You can use the regular or the fast, whatever you want to use. This is what I grabbed, because most of the time I don't think far enough ahead to, you know, use the regular one. So you just use 1 pack. This recipe says a pack and a little bit more, but why am I gonna open a pack and then waste another one? So anyways, let me show you. I'm just gonna sprinkle it in here and just kind of stir it around just a little. You can see some of my butter still needs to be melted. Just gonna stir it and wait for it to get foamy. Alright, you can tell this is all nice and foamy now, so let's put it into our mixer. It will look kind of chunky like that. It's okay. So that came out. So now we're just going to do a little pinch of salt. And 3.5 cups of flour. 3.5 to 4 cups of flour is what you're going to want to use. But I'm just going to start with 3.5 and see what that. And this is a half cup measuring, so. Just 1 cup. Just 2 cups. 3. Alright, we've got 3.5 cups in there. And that's what you're going to start with, depending on your humidity and where you live. So we're just going to keep this on low so it doesn't splash everything. Throw flour everywhere. It'll start to kind of come together. Don't be alarmed. Once it kind of starts looking like that, you can hear it start to bog down. Pick it up just a little bit. Okay, added another half cup of flour. Looks like it's coming together better now. Once it's done, we'll kind of form this little dough ball. And slip that off. And put a greased bowl. I just put some canola oil in here. Let's get this scraped out. Still comes out of the thing pretty. It's going to look like that. Turn it over just so it's coated with the oil. And put a towel over it. Okay, now that our dough has risen, doubled in size. This bowl is pretty wide, so it's why it doesn't look like high. But I have a cooking sheet here, baking sheet, whatever, lined with parchment paper. And we're going to pinch off the balls of the dough to the size that we want. Spray your hands. I just spray them with whatever cooking oil that I'm using. And you're going to just kind of roll it up. These are going to be pretty small because last time they grew a lot, so you're just going to grab off a piece about like that, just kind of turn it over on itself to where it forms a little ball. Probably going to put 4 across my cooking sheet here. Last time I did like really big balls of dough and they grew quite a bit. So if it starts getting too sticky, just put a little bit more cooking spray on. And we're going to get these put down. So my oven is off and I'm just going to stick these in here because I don't have a very high walled pan here. And I want them to rise, but I don't want anything sticking to them. So I'm just going to stick them in there. That way they don't get drafty. Let them rise for another 20 minutes, and then I will bake them. My rolls have pretty much doubled in size, or however big you want them. My house isn't super warm yet because it is still morning time. So I think they rose faster last time because my house was pretty warm. Easy to bake at 400 for about 15 minutes. See what we look like. Oh, y'all, these look perfect. These look amazing. I'm gonna melt some butter, put over the top of them, and then Josh will probably test one. Right, I've got a couple tablespoons of butter melted here. Well, mostly melted. A little brush. I'm just gonna go right over the top of these. Oh, kind of missed that one. It's hard for me to look through the camera. Alright, let's get this roast checked on. Whoa. Sorry, fogged up. Okay, we're gonna want this around 160 or so, and higher. Let's see where we're at now. We're at about 120. So I think I'm gonna cook it the rest of the way with the lid off. That way maybe we'll get a little bit of browning, but you can see the longer you cook it, obviously the tender it's gonna be. So let's put this back in. It's been in about an hour and a half, so let's put it back in for another couple hours. Okay, y'all, here's finished supper. I don't know if I showed you the rolls when they first came out. That's how they turned out. Little butter on. My pork tenderloin that I smoked, just reheated it in the oven. Mashed potatoes, a little bit of gravy from the drippings, and butter. It's not a huge dinner, but it is enough for us two. So I'm gonna go call Josh in and tell him that supper's ready.